Justin, are we live yet? Are we live? We're ready. Ready? You ready? You ready, Robert? Hello, everyone. Thank you, big crowd. Commissioners from both committees, welcome to the May 26, 2026 Health and Ed Committee meeting, which is an annual joint meeting with our Budget Committee. And it's a process we began some years back to try to tackle such a monumental budget with one presentation to both committees, and then the Health and Ed can consider voting, and Budget can likewise consider voting or postpone until another night and rehear it already. And if they've had questions, they've already heard the presentation. So it's a great way to do it. So thank you for joining us. I won't mention the names of the school board members, but school board members and members-elect, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for the effort to be here tonight and for the efforts y'all have put into an arduous budget in a very large school district. You've done great things, and I look forward to this conversation tonight. So thank you for being here. For the public, we will call to order the Health and Ed Committee, and then Commissioner P, will call to order his Budget Committee. So we will both be in session. Tonight we'll have Justin keeping minutes for both committees. My intention tonight is to have the budget presentation, excuse me, let me back up. First, we're going to do two amendments. I think a cleanup for the cafeteria and a new revenue amendment for the school general fund. After that, we have three components of the school budget that will be presented. Cafeteria, 177 physical plant, and then schools general. My desire for this committee is to first hear the cafeteria, hold questions, then we're going to have the finance director of Rutherford County, Mr. Michael Smith, give his response, his take, his awareness of that specific budget, how he foresees the county general fund and tax pennies, how they look. Then we will have discussion on cafeteria. Then we'll pass that same item on to Budget Committee to vote or defer. Then we'll move on to Fund 177 and follow the same process. Director of Schools Finance will present. We will hold questions and have Michael present. Then we will follow up with questions and discussion, and so on for all three of those items. So without objection, we'll have Michael call the roll. We'll consider our minutes, if you're prepared for that, Commissioner Wilson, and then we'll pass it on to Commissioner P. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Boyd.
Here.
Commissioner Davidson.
Here.
Commissioner Gooch.
Here.
Commissioner McMurray.
Here.
Commissioner Oliver.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
Chairman Dodd.
Here. Commissioner P.
We'll also, at this time, open the Budget Committee for the same date and time. And Michael, go ahead and call roll for budget.
Commissioner Gooch.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
Here.
Commissioner Irvin.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Piercy.
Here.
Commissioner Sereno.
Here.
Chairman P.
Here.
Thank you, Justin. We obviously have a quorum for both committees. We will proceed with the Health and Ed agenda, with the minutes of last month.
Thank you, Chairman. I have reviewed the minutes from our April meeting. I find them to be in order, and I move for their approval.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Health and Ed Committee, any questions or changes to the minutes? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we will proceed with Mr. Brian Runyon, the Finance Director of Rutherford County Schools, with two amendments that are on your SharePoint. And we will entertain those. Let's go one at a time. And I don't think we'll pass those to y'all tonight, will we?
Don't have to.
Okay, we will do them all tonight, Robert.
Okay.
Chairman. This amendment is to increase Fund 141 budgeted revenues and expenditures in the amount of $5,556,938 in our general purpose school funds to recognize the awarded summer camp grant for FY 25-26. On January 22nd, 2021, the Tennessee General Assembly enacted the Tennessee Learning Loss Remediation and Student Acceleration Act to address the learning loss of students due to COVID-19 related to school closures. Through this law, all Tennessee school districts were required to offer learning loss remediation summer programs for students in rising grades K through 8 starting in the summer of 2021. Provisions of this law were set to expire in summer 2023, including summer learning camps for rising grades 1 through 3 and after-school summer learning mini camps or stream camps. However, in 2023, the legislative session, the Tennessee General Assembly amended the act to continue summer programming, summer learning camps, after-school learning mini camps, learning lost bridge camps, and summer camp transportation for rising grades K-9 annually. The funds will be used to fund summer work for principals, teachers, educational assistants, and secretaries. There is no local match required for this grant, and we have received it for the last three or 4 years around this time during the summer.
Thank you, Brian. And are the funds similar to the previous years, and your expenditures are similar?
It actually is the same amount as it was last year, or the year before, yeah, in 24-25.
Thank you. Committee, you've heard an amendment for the summer program. Are there any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Trey, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Okay, just a question on the grants and expenditures. Is it able to address all the students in need of that type of service?
Yes. Yes.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion on the First Amendment? Hearing none. Justin, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Chairman Dunn.
Yes. Thank you for that motion, Commissioner Gooch. Brian, continue, please.
Okay, so our second budget amendment is for our Fund 143 Central Cafeteria Fund. This amendment increases 99,100,504 indirect cost and decreases 34,570 restricted fund balance in the amount of $2 million to budget for indirect costs that were accumulated in Fund 141 and being reimbursed by Fund 143. Indirect costs are incurred for the benefit of multiple programs, functions, and other cost objectives that cannot be readily identified as having been occurred, especially for the school food service program. Indirect cost rates are calculated by TDOE and child nutrition programs. Use the unrestricted indirect cost rate. The FY 25-26 unrestricted indirect cost rate for RCS is 11.19%.
Thank you, Director. I will open the floor for questions. Commissioner Oliver.
I know you just read that, but explain to me what this is and what you're trying to do.
So we actually did this budget amendment last year as well. So what this does is this transfer funds from our cafeteria funds over into Fund 141 to cover indirect costs. Indirect costs could be anything from electricity that is incurred by the cafeteria at the schools, any staff that works that's paid out of our general purpose school fund, but yet they spend their time also in Fund 143, doing the finance portion of that. Utilities, anything of that extent that is incurred by the cafeteria that we pay for are already automatically in Fund 141 is what it is. So it's just indirect costs that we transfer money and pay 141 back for those costs out of 143.
And I believe that this is an annual, you have some, you're compelled by the government in that fund to spend that balance down. Is this part of that routine?
So because we have started to do this, the first time we did it was last year. We did it for basically the same amount. It hadn't been done in the past because there was never in the past a really high fund balance. Once COVID hit and we got reimbursed fully by the federal government for that 1 or 2 years that we got 100% back for students, we built that fund balance up to the point where now we have to spend it down to a reasonable amount in order to be able to pass what the state mandates for us to have it at. Now, I don't want to spend it all the way down to where we have nothing, but this is one way that we are able to pull the fund balance down and also present a plan to the state on how we're going to, use that money.
And you talk about spending down. Is there a reason why this can't be spent to be able to provide meals for students or assist in that effort?
We can do that, but here's the issue with trying to provide meals for everyone for free. This fund balance would deplete within 1 year because it costs way more to do so we were able to do it during COVID because we were being reimbursed at 100%. We are no longer being reimbursed by the federal government at 100%. Then you add the other costs that go on top of that, just running the operations. If we were trying to pay for food for free for everybody, this fund balance would be depleted in no less than 2 years.
Okay, so then I was reading about this community eligibility provision. Have we looked into that and how we could be able to assist families by providing meals?
There have been multiple districts that have tried this, and they have ended up, for lack of a better word, they've gone in the red trying to do so. It's just not feasible to be able to feed everybody, especially in a district of almost 52,000 kids, for free. It's very difficult to put additional money into fund balance in 143, but we have been able to maintain it and keep it at that level that we need it at to, be able to run an efficient cafeteria program at each one of the schools. But like I said, it's one of those things that this is the way we feel that we can keep within regulations of the state and also maintain a somewhat of a healthy fund balance.
So let's just say you don't even provide meals for everyone and you need to pay down this money is what you're saying, right? You have to pay down this money.
Really what this is just a reimbursement for cost to 141, to Fund 141. So those costs that you don't see that we pay out of 141, like electricity. So, electricity is by the school building, the school location. They don't separate it out by cafeteria. They don't separate it out by K8, K5, elementary, high school. They don't separate it out. They separate it by location. So those costs that the cafeteria incur, we don't see them directly because they're all included in that specific location they're at. So that's the reason what we're doing is we're recouping those electricity costs from 143 that we've paid fully in Fund 141. Same way with, I may have finance staff that works with Fund 143 and that staff there to be able to pay payroll, to, issue POs, to pay requisitions, invoice, send them over to the county to be paid. But they're being paid fully out of Fund 141, and then I'm going to reimburse them their portion of their salary out of Fund 143. So that's what it is. It's basically a reimbursement to Fund 141 for those costs that you can't fully collect and see in 143.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the 143 amendment? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Thank you, Commissioner McMurray. Any other questions or discussion? We will move on to call the roll, please, for the vote.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Chairman Dodd?
Yes. Thank you for that motion, Mr. Boyd. And we will now move on to the Budget Committee. Will now entertain the same two motions. Is that correct, Chairman P?
Well, I want to address the Budget Committee, and actually, I want a show of hands. Michael has suggested we go ahead and address these two transfers tonight to expedite things, but I want a show of hands on who is okay with voting for this tonight. We will not be voting on this tonight. And while we've already passed the first motion for transfer, again, a show of hands on whether you want to vote on the first one. Let's see.
See four.
I see 4 on that one. Mr. Runyon, if you don't mind, repeat the first transfer that you've requested.
The $5 million.
And we will be addressing that tonight.
You want me to read the whole full thing again?
Yes, just the,
Okay.
just the,
Okay.
Just the
I just
I
want
want to make
sure
sure
I
they
was
know
gonna
which
read
one
the
we're
motion.
on.
Okay. So this amendment is, like I said, in our Fund 141 General Purpose School Fund, and what it does is it budgets revenues and expenditures in the amount of $5,556,938 to recognize the awarded summer camp grant for FY 25-26. On January 22nd, 2021, the General Assembly enacted the Tennessee Learning Loss Remediation and Student Acceleration Act to address the learning loss of students due to COVID-19 related school closures. Through this law, Tennessee school districts were required to offer learning loss remediation summer programs for students in rising grades K through 8. Starting in the summer 21, provisions of this law were set to expire in summer 2023, included summer learning camps for rising grades 1 through 3 and after summer school learning mini camps or stream camps. However, in the 2023 legislative session, the Tennessee General Assembly amended the act to continue summer programming, which includes summer learning camps, after-school summer learning mini camps, learning loss bridge camps, and summer camp transportation for rising grades K through 9 annually. The funds will be used to fund summer work for principals, teachers, education assistants, and secretaries. There is no local match required for this grant.
Discussion from the Budget Committee. Hearing no discussion, do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? To recognize Commissioner Irvin.
This was just distributed when?
It actually came to us about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
It was distributed.
But it's not been on SharePoint, and I haven't seen it.
Oh, as far as sending this to you, I think we sent it last week over here.
It wasn't distributed, and it wasn't posted on SharePoint this afternoon, or when I checked. I'm concerned about getting a $5 million amendment the last day.
I think we've already gotten this money. Or is this as reimbursement from the summer camp grant?
Yeah, it's going to be in a reimbursement form, so.
Yeah, so one of the problems we're going to have on this one is if we don't want to take this money, then we're going to have some other issues of not having summer school, which is going to put us in some conflict with TDOE. That's why this one is time sensitive, more time sensitive than the other one. It's really an in and out. We won't spend the whole thing. We never do, since it's reimbursement. But the problem we're going to run into is not being able to make payroll at the end of the month if we don't approve this one for summer school. But I'm checking right now. I thought we uploaded to SharePoint, but I'm checking to make sure it's there.
While he's looking, any further questions? You're recognized, Mr. Pearson.
Did I not understand you to say it was a no-match grant?
That is correct.
Does the grant cover all expenditures for what you're trying to do?
Yes, Commissioner, it does.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman,
You're recognized, I'm sorry.
so summer school payroll is dependent on this grant? Is that what I heard?
Yes, a piece of it is, yes. because if we don't want to take the grant, then we're still going to have the expenditures to pay the teachers and the EAs to have summer school.
Right. Well, at this point, I don't have an opinion on the grant or not. I'm just not having seen
It is out there. It was uploaded. I wonder, we put it under the Health and Education Committee, since it was a joint meeting tonight. That may be why, if you looked under Budget and Finance, it wasn't there, but it's under the Health and Education Committee.
Well,
Further discussion? Sitting a little lower, it's kind of hard for me to see everybody in the back, but hearing no further discussion, Justin, call roll.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris. Yes. Commissioner Urban. Yes. Commissioner Johnson. Yes. Chairman P.
Yes, motion carries.
This is for the Budget and Finance Committee. The second item, the cafeteria transfer to 141, the transfer's out. If y'all could give us some direction, would you like that on the agenda tomorrow night, or would you like that to go to June 4th?
Mr. Chairman,
You're recognized.
tomorrow night, if the folks from the schools could come back so that we can have a chance to ask questions. I'll defer questions to there.
Sure.
Well, they'll certainly be back if we don't vote on, 141 and the other line items tonight.
We'll add it till tomorrow night then.
Thank you both. I'm sorry, I could have handled that better. You would not have had to have read it all again. I bundled them, that was my bad. So let's try not to do that again. Shout at me if you need. So Michael, any comment?
Yeah, I was going to give some housekeeping stuff after these two items, we're going to get into their budgets. But I wanted to tell everybody where everything is in case anybody did not get a handout. I can get you one. So in front of you tonight on your iPads and on the screen and what was emailed to the committees is their presentation. It's rather lengthy. I think it's 80 or 90 pages. So that was emailed to you and it is on your iPads tonight. And it's also on SharePoint. I printed for the committees the actual budget that we're voting on. Both 141, 143 has all been printed for you. Also printed for you in front of you is the 177 project list. I'm going to go ahead and apologize that it is so small. I could not get it any bigger, but it is on your iPads and is on the screen tonight, and it is on SharePoint. It was also a part of the email that we sent out last week. I just want to make sure everybody had a copy of that in front of them. If anybody doesn't, please let me know. We've got a couple extras we can hand out. I can't see the other. Commissioner Oliver, y'all, I can't see y'all. Y'all have everything down there in front of you? Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Paul's reading his too. Yes, thank you. So we, first on the agenda is I think Dr. Sullivan had just an opening comment.
Good evening, Commissioners. I also want to thank our school board and some of our school board elect members, or those that are still in the middle of running, for being here. I greatly appreciate that, and just members of our audience, and also our team who has worked very hard on our budget. So I want to give everybody just a quick overview of our budget process. Our budget process begins in December. That starts with an overview training that we do each year with our principals over how revenues, expenditures, our different funds, 141, 177, 143, how all of those operate in our different accounts and object codes. Principals then have to work with their leadership teams to submit budget requests to us on multiple items such as staffing, professional development, instructional supplies and materials, technology, those different types of items. They have to submit those in January. Our central office teams then take the principal requests and get feedback from their teams as department chairs through our assistant superintendents, and then they submit budget requests to us by February. Our board then sets their priorities for the year, so we work starting in February with our principal and our central office request to then start connecting that with our board items. And so our board priorities start working around the same time as we get our first TISA estimate. So TISA is our new, of course, we're in our fourth year of our TISA funding model, which replaced BEP, which is a lot different than what it used to be. What is different this year is it's a little bit behind. The state went to a new vendor. It replaced EIS, which was the old vendor for collecting student information, and now they're with a different one. So throughout the year, the districts have had a calendar of when they had to have different information updated. We are still on that calendar of updating information, and we've had all year to be able to correct that. So our TISA estimates change. We should get another one. I haven't seen one today yet. We should get another one by the end of this week, and every time that usually increases as our numbers increase throughout the year. To follow up then within March, so we get our first TISA estimate in February. March 12th, we had our board retreat to where we look at where we've been with our budget and how we are trending. March 26th, we reviewed our 177 priorities of where we are as a school system, what some of our items are. HVAC for us is one of the biggest items that we can never put enough money into because those just continually get more and more expensive and our buildings continually get older and older. But we have made quite a bit of a dent the last couple years with your support. Just unfortunately, things just continue to get older and older. We also, and Mr. Running's going to talk a lot about it, have put a lot of money into LED lights to be able to try to be more efficient, but also bring down some of our electricity costs. The April 9th board meeting and work session board meeting, so the 9th is the date of the board meetings that I'm giving you. We reviewed 143. Then April 23rd, we reviewed 141. May 7th, we had a special called budget workshop. We reviewed all three of those funds again. Then May 11th and 14th, we repeated ourselves and reviewed all three of those funds again in detail. And just want to give everybody a kind of a calendar of where we've been from December until today. And then just give you, it's going to be a little bit different of a presentation tonight. You're going to hear Mr. Runyon tonight, and that is intentional. So one of the pieces of advice I got from a mentor in a different county was when becoming a superintendent is to make sure that you learn all you can about finance. And so I took that the first couple years, and I hope in the next month I can share with you something else I'm doing to learn even more about finance and accounting. Brian and I actually this last year in February, we were recognized by the Tennessee State Board of Education, and we presented at the February 26th workshop about our development on budgets for being recognized for high academic growth. We had the highest academic growth of any school system in Tennessee, but also for having one of the lowest per pupil expenditures in the state, still being in the bottom 20 or 25 based on the reports from last year. So we're extremely proud, and that's a collaboration that we all do with you all to be able to have such a low per pupil expenditure and have such high performance. All of that to say, inadvertently at the same time, by me presenting the budget at the same time, you all haven't got to hear from Brian as much. And Brian at the same point is the one that is crunching the numbers and doing all the budgeting and all of those different things alongside me the whole time and leading that, and I inadvertently didn't give him enough of the microphone to be able to talk. And so you all has to be able to have that same trust that you do with me and our school board that you have in Brian. And so I've asked Brian to kind of take a lead, and I'm going to do my best not to talk through some of this and not come over here and take the mic, but I have full trust in Mr. Runyon as well. The last thing I want to say about our budget is I'm proud of this budget. Just a couple highlights. We have a 2% increase in our table. We've been able to have an increase to cover some of our medical insurance for our employees. It's about a 10% aggregate increase to medical insurance at the state plan. We're covering about half. And then what we're really proud of is that we have opened Poplar Hill Elementary, and then we'll open Poplar Hill Middle next year by transferring over 80 classrooms. I'm talking regular classroom K-8, not special education bookkeepers, but true K-8 teachers. We will have transferred over 80 teaching positions from other classrooms in the district, which saves us well over $6 to $7 million by transferring teaching positions instead of adding new positions. And so that's something that Dr. Chastain, our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Anthony with our Human Resources, Chief Human Resources and Personnel, Mr. Runyon and myself have worked to transfer those people instead of incurring extra cost on the school system and on the county. And so that's something we're extremely proud of, and that's over 80 positions. Mr. Runyon, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Again, commissioners, thank you for letting us be here to present this. Dr. Sullivan, I will say this about him. I have never seen a director of schools dig into the budget as deep as he does and has for the last 4 years, and I'm glad he did because he made my job easier as well. So he's literally right there beside me, asking me questions as I'm asking him questions, and we're putting that budget together along with Michael Smith, because if it wasn't for him, we got to know what's going on his side as well as our side and collaborate. So it makes it's all a collaboration when we bring this together, because if we don't do that, then one hand doesn't know what the other's doing. So we want to make sure that we present it the right way and we put it together the right way, and make it beneficial for not only your constituents, but for ours as well, and our staff and admin at the schools. Okay, I'm going to start off with our central cafeteria funds, which is our Fund 143. I'm trying to see.
Everybody have the 2 pages labeled 143?
Okay.
Yes, sir, Mr. Harris.
Hey, I just want to ask you this before we get started, because it's literally on every line. So our schools are with a state health plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we budgeted, I think, Michael, around 20% increase, because there's going to be a huge increase. So what did you budget on your medical insurance increase for this year?
Okay, so we based it off of what we were hearing, which was a 10% aggregate increase across the board. But we only have to pay that starting in January. So we basically budgeted half of the 10% aggregate to that. So it came out late last week, that it's actually going to be an 8.7% aggregate across the board. But we budgeted at a 10 because at that time we didn't have the information, because the insurance committee at the state had not passed that information along to us.
So Fund 143 will be the first presentation, then we'll pause and hear from Director Smith, and then we will entertain questions.
Okay, so Fund 143, the budgeted revenues amount, and majority of your fund, and I'll show you this on the slides here in a few minutes. Get to it on my computer. Fund 143, the budgeted revenue is $26,884,250. Sorry. And like I said, the majority of that is federal funding, comes through the USDA. We do have some local funding, and then basically your a la carte sales, your lunch programs, and that the school collects through food service at the school level. We also budgeted, and if y'all can see that if you're looking at this on your slides or on your sheets, this is you'll be looking at the column that says the mayor/board recommendation, and then this total amount down at the bottom where it says total revenues. The 26 million is right there, the 26,844,000. And then I'm going to move to the next slide. What these slides show, or these graphs will show, is just a historical aspect of the cafeteria fund balance. As you can see, it's a 5-year, the top graph is a 5-year cafeteria fund balance. As you can see, it increased in 22-23, and then that 22-23 is when we were getting a lot of the COVID money, and then it has decreased over the last couple years because we have done those transfers out of there for indirect cost. As you can see, the next one shows the percentage of federal funding to local funding. We're about 71% of federal funding and 28% of local funding. Yeah, sure. So in local funding, if we look back at the slide here in revenues, where you see the 43,000 codes. Oh, I'm sorry, I moved away. So where you can see the 43,000 codes, that is actually your local funding. So that comes out to be what your 28%. So lunch payments to children, lunch payments to adults, income from breakfast, and a la carte sales. That all totals up to be your your local funding. Your federal funding, as you can see, is the $47,000. So that's your USDA school lunch program, breakfast, and then your other fresh fruit and variety. So you also have investment income, which is also some of the local income that we get, but it, like, as you can see there, it's $24,000 that we budget for that.
Can we ask questions?
Yes,
Sure.
Could you talk a little bit more about the investment income and how that's not making sense to me right now, as far as we're budgeting $24,000, but so far year to date, we've received $351,000? Is that, am I reading that correctly?
I'm going to let Michael answer that one for you because he's the one who sends it to us.
Okay.
Well, I don't send this one for 143, but this one's going to be a little different. It's going to be a different reason, different answer than 141 or even than our county general. So they're a centralized cafeteria. So what happens is they've got one bank account where all the money flows, and that account fluctuates all the way up and down. And so I think it's the same principle but different in this situation where their money necessarily isn't always sitting with the trustee's office. They've got accounts where all they kind of come together from all the probably 55 cafeterias or more, because some schools I guess have 2. Anyways, long story short, you don't want to operate that fund relying on that investment income. So it's similar principle to what we've done on the county side of conservatively budget. This does not include a maintenance of effort, so they would be more than welcome to increase that. But the problem, the risk you run is it for them in a $26 million fund, $250,000 or something more on a budget's really not going to change when they have a deficit of $8 million. And so really that's just an exact nature of being conservative there, and depending on how much cash is in there at any given time in that centralized bank account there.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I had a question as well, since we're asking questions as we go along. When you went back to that chart and you talked about the differences in the fund, and you said the reason was because you started to pay down for indirect costs. Is there a reason why you started it there as opposed to were you not doing that before?
Whenever you asked me the question when we were doing the amendment earlier, basically we started paying down with the indirect costs last year. So we didn't start until 24, 25 with indirect cost or transferring that indirect cost over to general purpose. So this is the second year of us doing so.
And so then, since you had not been doing that previously, you just started doing it. Why did you just now start doing it?
For the purpose of being able to spend down that fund balance, because the state has mandated that there be a spending plan put there. But there can only be a certain percentage of fund balance that we're allowed to.
And that just started in '24, that the state
No.
came down with that?
No, it didn't.
Okay,
It's
so-
just what we're trying to do in order to get down and be in compliance with what the state wants us to be.
Mr. Chairman, can I speak to indirect
Yes,
costs?
do so, and we'll, the next go-around, I broke my rule, and I started allowing questions, and that breaks the flow of the presentation, so let's let Michael respond here, and then...
I want to clarify something on indirect cost. You can have indirect cost on just about any state or federal grant. The county also takes indirect cost. That has been around ever since I've been involved in governmental accounting. But I want to preface this. It's not just so much, don't look at indirect cost so much as a spin down. Indirect cost is a way to unrestrict the money and give the governing body more flexibility on what to do with those dollars, is also another way to look at it. And I'm going to give you an example. So the county, we have several grants in the county from the federal government. So some of those grants are really, really restrictive. They may say, we have a grant now, I know in recovery court, that says you can go buy prescription drugs for people as part of recovery court. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what the grant is, right? But you can also take indirect costs. So let's say that grant is $100,000. I'm picking a random number here. But I only have $50,000 to spend on the drugs for those people in reentry court. So if I don't take any indirect costs, the other remaining 50 goes back to the federal government. It doesn't stay in Rutherford County. But let's say that I could take 25% on indirect cost. One, that covers our expenditure to administer the grant. But two, that keeps that extra $25,000 here in Rutherford County, right? And allows the governing body could still choose to earmark that for drug costs, in my example. Same difference here. This money goes over 141, it eventually will flow into their unassigned fund balance. The school board and, this body could say, hey, we want to use this for lunch at some point, or some other, I don't want you to think it means you can't still use it. It gives this body and the school board greater flexibility. And so you're killing two birds with one stone, and typically what happens is, whoever the grant comes from, in this case, I'd assume it's TDOE, sets how much you can spend on that indirect costs. Sometimes they'll set a flat rate, a de minimis rate, which is kind of what the county uses, or they'll do a calculation. It really depends. So they may take indirect cost on Title I that's already in 141 or on special ed or things like that. I don't know if they do, but that's also allowed. You just don't see it because it's not going from fund to fund. I'm not advocating they should or shouldn't do it. I'm saying it typically involves more than just saying, hey, I want to spend on the fund balance, because it could be that you could turn right around, and a few years ago we had to give 143 money out of 141. So it doesn't mean that 141 couldn't ever put it back in 143. So I'm just encouraging to say it's a different way to look at it, to say once you take that indirect cost, it frees it up and gives this body greater flexibility on what the local need is here, for this body and the school board to decide.
That's the bottom line I was trying to get to. It gave you flexibility to do what you want to do with the money. Thanks.
And I will say also with the 143 cafeteria fund, it is an unrestricted rate, whereas more of your federal funding is done at a restricted rate, which is usually a lower percentage. So, looking at your expenditures for 143, as you can see, majority of this is just normal operating salary, benefits, and equipment. Food supplies, your largest is your food supplies that we've got budgeted at $13,850,000 for a total amount of $35,388,150, which is about an $8.5 million deficit that we're budgeting into in order to balance the budget. And then I also want to show you another graph regarding this. Is there anything? Okay, yeah, sure. So if you look back on line 710, 73,100, 710, the food service equipment we had budgeted at $1.7 million this current year. We haven't spent that down just due to the fact that, when we go to spend it down, sometimes, it just depends on what the plan is at the cafeteria level to be able to, if we're trying to renovate a cafeteria or whatever, that's where a lot of that funding comes out of for the equipment or whatever, but we don't always spend it down. So we actually reduced it a little bit this year to $1.6 million instead of $1.7, just because we felt that we could use that $100,000 in another location. So that's the reason. It's 1.7, but that's where if our COO, Trey Lee, decides, he wants to, or they're going to renovate a cafeteria or whatever, a lot of the equipment that is for that comes out of that line, and that way we don't have to spend it out of Fund 141. All right, and so here's another graph, a couple graphs to show you. This shows 143, the 6-year revenue versus expenditure analysis. As you can see, in 23-24, your revenues and expenditures increased just due to the fact that was part of the COVID years. And then if you look at the revenue increase per year and the expenditure increase per year, they kind of dipped in this current year. Of course, the issue of it is we're not finished with this year yet. So I can't portray it and say it's the whole truth, but that's where we're at. We were at as a month ago whenever I ran these numbers. And then you will see the 143 6-year surplus deficit. As you can see, it's increased every year just for the fact of us budgeting deeper into the cafeteria fund balance, just due to the fact of where we can present a fair and balanced plan to the state of saying how we're using this money and the flexibility that we're able to use it for. So I think that's all on 143. Oh, okay. One other thing, we have some positions as well that we budgeted. These These are for mainly, there's 10 additional growth positions. 8 out of those 10 are for Poplar Hill Middle School, the one that we are currently opening. They include a food service manager, assistant food service manager, five food service personnel that are half-time, and then one full 8-hour food service personnel. So, as I said, the only basic positions that we added to this particular fund is for the opening of Poplar Hill Middle. And we take a question.
Well, see, Michael, do you have any? So now, any further questions on Fund 143 from the Health and Ed Committee? Mr. Mayor.
This is going to be a remedial question, so this is going to be really easy for you to answer.
Thanks.
So on your 143, fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027, you have estimated budget through April 2026. In every case, you're spending substantially less on a pro rata rate than what's been budgeted for. So after April, you're 10 months through your fiscal year. As an example, let's just pick one, cafeteria personnel. You have budgeted, the original budget was a little over $10 million, yet you haven't even spent $4.5 million through 10 months. Can you explain why there's that kind of discrepancy with 2 months left in your fiscal year, please?
Which page were you looking at, Mayor? I'm sorry? Which page were you looking at?
I'm looking at the 143 statement of proposed operations.
It's right here.
73,100, 165.
That's correct. But you can pull any one of those items. They're all proportionally significantly below what the prorated expenditure would be for the budgeted for the current year. So I'm trying to ascertain, we're 10 months in, and yet we haven't spent half the money with 2 months left in the budget year. Why is that?
I'm checking to make sure the sheet got updated to be sure. Now, I will add, this is not going to make up that entire deficit, but I will say we're 3 months behind on a lot of our, even though there's 2 months left in the fiscal year, you got to keep in mind that that's a payroll line. So like, for example, you're going to see big swings. The teacher payroll is $35 million a month. So they still have, like, we would still have to make, they're a month behind. But that's not going to make up the entire deficit. I just am pointing that out.
Right, so I'm just looking at 143, which is just cafeteria, and the food service, 73,100, as an example. You could take any of these line items, but let's just look at 165, cafeteria personnel. The original budgeted amount for the current fiscal year of 25-26 is $10,094,842. We have spent through April, which would be 10 months, $4,404,629, which is about $5.5 million short of the budgeted. And I'm asking, are we going to spend $5.5 million in 2 months for cafeteria personnel? If so, why?
We will not, due to the fact that our per meal labor hour, I'll let him give it to you.
I'm going to give Trey Lee credit on this one, so since...
By the way, it says this is the mayor's recommendation, and I haven't seen this before,
So
this isn't my recommendation.
I got it.
Yep.
So 2 things. One, on there, it says mayor/board, so it's the school board's recommendation. It'll say the same on the highway fund that we approved the other night. The budget software only allows me one column for either the mayor or the board, whether that be the road board or school board. But the number, for some reason, that number is not updated on the sheet in front of you. And that's what I was worried something has printed wrong on that sheet. As of today, right now today, that line item, 73,100, 165, has spent $9,300,000. And we spend about $1 million a month.
Thank you, Michael. So
That's what I was worried, something,
Right, so every single category I have on my sheet is showing a woefully overfunded line item or an underfunded expenditure. And so they're like that in every single case, all the way from 105 to 499.
No, I see that. No, I see that. I don't. Everything else looks right on there except the estimated through April 2026. It looks like the date at the top of that column is wrong, where it says April 2026. Is what I'm thinking is.
Double check one, Michael.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, 73,100,
No, I think, no,
422.
Mayor's right. That entire column looks off. The estimated through, because it shows they've only spent 15 million on the sheet that's in front of you tonight. It shows they've only spent 15 million, and I'm showing they've spent about 24 million as of today. I don't know why that printed wrong. I'd have to take me more than a few minutes to find out, but I will.
Not
That's a
right,
good question.
not right now, but I guess with regard to, Brian, with regard to the 143, the information I have in front of me, at least with regard to that column of estimated budget through April 2026, is not accurate, so I can't use that information, correct?
Yes. Everything else on there is right. I'm checking everything else is right except that column.
I just want to make sure what I can use and what I can't use. I'm not
Everything
I'm not
except-
trying to play gotcha here, Mike.
Everything except that column you can use.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And also on this, Michael, does this include encumbered amounts, or is it just actuals?
I don't know. That line wouldn't matter, the one he asked about, because it's not going to have any encumbrances. But it's
Yeah.
probably just going to include actuals.
I was just thinking the non-salary lines.
No, I know
So-
what it is something is not updated on there, and I don't know if the date was wrong, or or I didn't click the update button. It's not something the schools did, for sure. I want to make that clear. It is.
I was concerned Brian's presenting this as first time presenting it, Brian did not.
No.
I was going to chime in. I was going to let him finish.
I don't know. I will say this to the committee. I can reprint you a page. Everything else is right. Original budget, amended budget's right. The board recommendation column is right. It's just that date and that column, something happened on the printed report out of the software.
And Mr. Chair, if I may explain why me looking at this is important, because if we're looking at a prorated basis, you want it to track so they're budgeting appropriately, which is why I referenced that. Michael's given a fine explanation. We don't need to belabor the point, so thank you.
Thank you.
And these graphs that are up here for 143 are actually ran off of my actuals that I pulled out of the software system, not off of this page. So they pretty much do track on my graphs, but again, I probably should have reviewed this a little bit closer to see why those numbers were off. All right, so do we have any more questions for 143?
Mr. Gooch.
Thank you. Sorry, I got us off track earlier. I forgot about that. So when everything is said and done in 143, the ending fund balance in 2027 will be just over $4.5 million?
No, the actual ending fund balance will be probably close, and it's hard to say because I don't know how much we're going to end up with, because many times in the last couple years, we have ended up with more of a surplus than we have been. We haven't spent into a deficit. So right now, we're currently, from what I have calculated, we're somewhere with a fund balance of about 15 to 17 million. It's not going to be a $4 million fund balance. We'll have more than that in there. So.
Well, I'm seeing, and Michael may have to correct me, but I'm showing a beginning in fund balance of this past year is 13 million. And if the deficit is 8.5 million, I'm just wondering why am I...
What was your question, Commissioner?
Okay, so on the statement of, under tab 1,
Okay.
statement of proposed operations for cafeteria, the beginning ending fund balance, am I reading this correctly, is just over 13 million?
At the time of, yes.
Okay, so if,
That's assuming, that's on a budgetary basis, but yes, you're correct.
okay, well, this is where I'm getting my number.
Yeah, you'd be your number was correct. I think you said 4.5 million.
Yes.
Assuming they spend everything this year, which won't happen, but assuming they spend everything, they would be at 4.6 million in that fund balance.
Gotcha, okay.
And I think what Brian's saying is we're going to end better than that, and I would agree. But on a budgetary basis right now, there'd be about 4.6 in there. Your math is correct.
Okay, thank you, buddy.
I'm sorry, Commissioner,
Chairman.
I was taking actuals instead of
that's-
budget area numbers, so.
I have a question.
Commissioner Oliver.
How long would it take for us to get an accurate copy?
It's underway.
Okay. So can we just pause, or what do you want us to do?
So everything else is correct. That column is I can run one, but everything else as far as the original budget, amended budget, and their request is all correct. What I think happened is that date got changed at the top to April, and I think that date is probably December or January.
Does it impact the deficit that they were showing on the overall?
It's not going to impact anything for tonight. I'm still going to try to get you one here the next few minutes, but it won't impact anything for tonight.
And my comfort level is that having watched school board meetings over time and having conversations with Brian and Michael and Jenny and Commissioner Wilson, who's my insight to so much of the finances, Commissioner Gooch as well, that I have a comfort level that this is not an error of the school board in they don't know how much money they're spending and are asking for the same amount the next year. That's absolutely not the case. This is just simply an Excel spreadsheet updated from a wrong month.
So the budget side of our ledger, the ledger's right. We reconcile the ledger every month. We have a budget side of our software, and I have to update it to the ledger, and I'm betting that didn't get updated to the budget side. The ledger is right. That's how I knew exactly what we'd spend as of today. I may have it for you the next 30 seconds, and I can print you a handout, but it won't impact anything tonight as far as that goes.
Thank you for that. But I want to have a comfort level with the committee. I am comfortable having observed the board and worked with these ladies and gentlemen. We have opened it for discussion. We've had questions. Michael's chimed in. We'll entertain further questions from anybody on health and ed. And I'll also entertain a motion if we want to forward it to budget. And budget, I'm sure we'll have any updated expenditures to date. So what is the desire of this committee? I will entertain a motion. Chairman Phillips, you may speak into this.
Just a quick question. All of these figures, no matter what part of the budget, considers enrollment. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So your anticipated enrollment for next year compared to enrollment this year is what? Are you expecting an increase? Is that considered in here? So I'm asking that. The last couple of years have been flat, and we budgeted according to something that really didn't happen. So explain how enrollment is fitting into.
Last couple of years were not flat.
Okay.
Last couple of years grew. This year has been flat to a decrease. So
Okay.
I expect our updated TISA estimate to show about 120 to 150 kid drop this year countywide. And I would expect that to, based on what I've seen from kindergarten enrollment so far, a lot of that's attributed to kindergarten. I would expect that hopefully to have a enrollment jump next year. That's what I'm budgeting on. Instead of doing that 2% like we always did, I'm doing like it at a 0.5. Still, for us, though, that's a couple hundred instead of 1,000. But 143 is, for the most part, you're going to see all funded by USDA and lunch payments, student payments, not local tax rates.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Phillips. We have heard the 143 budget. We've had question and discussion. And the floor is open for a motion if anyone wishes to do so.
I move to approve, move to budget.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other question from the Health and Ed Committee? Justin, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Nay.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Chairman Dodd.
Yes. Thank you. Chairman P., do you want this seat?
No, as a matter of fact, I'll stand so I could see a little bit more. I want a show of hands of the Budget Committee members that want to vote on this budget tonight. And that you want to vote on it tonight, raise your hand, please. Okay, Okay, I see 3, so we will vote on this one tomorrow.
We will now move on to the next item on the agenda.
I had a question on the cafeteria fund, if I may ask this gentleman.
Yes, yes. Excuse me. It's hard for me to see you. So
I know I'm
but,
short.
well, it's not that. We got a podium between us, but go ahead.
Did I understand you to say you were going to have a surplus in this fund at the end of the year?
There's potential that we could. We don't know until we close out the year, but looking at the actuals, there could be a potential, you know, we're not going to spend into the deficit. I do know that much, just looking at the actuals currently. Usually we do one budget amendment to clean it up at the end of the year, but as of right now, I don't see us needing to do a budget amendment to clean anything up because we haven't fully, you know, spent or gone over those line items in that particular, in the budget of 143 at all. So I foresee us potentially putting money in there, but definitely not spending into the deficit.
Can you recall what was left over from the last budget? Not this budget, but the budget before?
Excluding the indirect costs that we transferred in, I think we put in maybe $1 million, close to $1 million, or we had about $1 million surplus, somewhere around there.
What was that used for?
What we do is we take it, rolls into fund balance, and then we reuse it to budget for the next fiscal year. So if we have raises or whatever, you know, we use it, and then, you know, what we don't use, we use it for budgeting into the deficit. So it continues to, I mean, your normal everyday expenditures, your salaries, your benefits, the increase of those, increase of your supplies, materials, equipment, we use it for all of that. But like I said, at the end of the year, it rolls into the fund balance so that, you know, we usually use it as a budgeted amount in order to budget against the deficit that we go into. If not, it just stays in the fund balance. And then whenever we pull out of the fund balance, so our indirect costs, the amendment that they just approved earlier, that indirect cost gets pulled out of fund balance. So it could be to where we're reimbursing or redistributing the money into 141, Fund 141, our general purpose fund.
And your fund balance, do you have a total for that as present day?
The last time I looked, which was about a month ago, and calculated it whenever I was putting some numbers together, we were right at 45 to 50% fund balance.
Being what type of dollars?
When you say what type of dollars, give me a little.
How much money?
Oh, I think it was right at 15 million, right at 15 million, somewhere around there.
Okay, thank you.
Just recalling off the top of my head, like I said, I have to go back and look at it, but as of right now, it was around 15 million with about a 50% fund balance.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask a quick question?
You're recognized.
Thank you. Could you walk us through this 5-year cafeteria fund balance analysis in terms of what we're looking at here?
Sure.
Any further questions from the committee? Not, I want to point out.
Well, I had a question about if he could walk us through it's labeled 5-year cafeteria fund balance analysis. Or we could defer it till tomorrow.
While he's getting that together, what I was trying to say is Michael has got those updated figures on this fund and is giving them to the committees. Please go ahead, Commissioner Urban.
Okay, so if you look at let me pull it up here on the screen too so everybody can see it. Okay, so the orange bars that you see on there is basically the fund balance that was in each fiscal year. So you'll see down there at the bottom of the graph, fiscal year 21 through fiscal year 25, 26. So that was the amount of the fund balance every year at the end of every fiscal year. So as you can see, it grew.
So we're going to end this one in right around 15.
We're right close to 15. Like I said, that was calculated a couple weeks ago whenever I was doing the graphs. That's not the exact amount. I just wanted to show where we were at the current point in time. It could be more than that at the end of the year. We haven't finished our fiscal year yet, so there could be, that number can grow. So then your fund balance percentage, which is your blue line that you see there, obviously it's your percentage of what fund balance was. As you can see currently right now, it's in between 40 and 50%. Again, it could be around that same amount at the end of the year. We're not sure, but as of right now, it looks like it may increase a little bit. So that's what your blue line is. The green line is the increase in the percentage increase and decrease of fund balance. And as you can see, it has gradually decreased over the last few years, but that's because we have tried to, reallocate the funding to 141 and be able to be more flexible with it. And then also, we've been trying to put forth a plan to the state to be able to spend some of that down into the more appropriate level that they want us at.
And you said it earlier before, but the percentage that's required to be spent down to is?
The state says right around, Michael, is it 30%? 3 months, or I say 30%. It's 3 months, which would be somewhere, I don't know, what do we spend per month there?
For 143, the state requires you to have a spend down plan if you have more than either 3 or 6 months in there. It's not that you have to spend it, you just have to have a plan for it. Sometimes that plan is that we're going to update some cafeteria equipment. Sometimes it's that we're going to have indirect costs. Sometimes it's that we're going to cover unpaid, cover additional food costs and stuff. So you just have to have a plan.
So the total cost per year is about 35?
That's for this coming year with estimated renovating some projects.
So your burn rate's about 3, fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay, so a burn rate of about 3. So you're going to have a pretty healthy surplus.
Potentially. That's what we've been running into and why we keep budgeting further into the deficit with our spend down plan to see if we can get further into to actually get to a point where we're getting a deficit instead of increased revenue.
Okay, so I guess to pick up on something Commissioner Oliver was talking about, I'm still kind of curious. You don't have to spend it all the way. I'm just going to plant a seed for tomorrow evening. You don't have to spend it all the way down, but wouldn't it be great if you could give a little bit of it back to the students and the staff and the teachers? I mean, you don't have to do it all. You could do part of it, get down to that reasonable number, okay, with an appropriate reserve built into there. It just strikes me as, when I was looking at that thing, I was thinking, gosh, this would be something we could be kind of great. You could help out the teachers and the staff and the students so just a bit for a however short period of time. But it just struck me, we'll talk about that maybe a little bit more tomorrow.
And I'd be curious, since it is federal funding going into 141, since we do have indirect costs going into 141, indirectly it does allow us to have revenue that pays for raises, staff, medical insurance, those type of things. So it, in a way, does.
Do you accumulate those costs somewhere?
Do what? Sorry.
Do you accumulate those costs in an account so that you can match up?
No, because you can't. We can't track electricity, sewer, those different types
Well,
of
you
things.
could come up with some kind of,
That's what
in other words,
That's the indirect cost percentage.
in other words, you don't have the $2 million set up as some kind of indirect cost that could enable us to take that amount out of the budget. So
There's actually a formula that the state puts out.
I guess there's a formula. I understand there's a formula. I'm trying to, can you track $2 million? I mean, I'm trying to, I'd like for it to be fair to everybody. I get there's a formula.
I guess my question would be on that is what would we where would we want it to go? Do we want it to go to salary and benefits? Do we want to?
Heck, I'd like for it to maybe reduce the
decision,
school
too.
lunch, school lunches a little bit. I mean,
That's hard to do.
even on a short-term basis.
I think what we
I
run
mean,
into
there could
with
be, I get that you need a little bit for overhead, but if we're not tracking it,
I think what my concern in being the CEO basically of the organization is that we just really attacked bad meal debt. It got well over $1 million. And so anything we do in the short term is then going to have the potential to increase bad meal debt. I'd be very concerned about doing that. We do keep our costs as low as possible. We had, if you go back and look at our board meeting or our board workshop from March 14th, we had discussion about increasing the presentation and appetite's not the right word, but the presentation of our food quality. And so that's part of what this budget presentation is.
you're saying there's a correlation between bad debt
Yes.
and reducing the school lunch cost.
It occurred after COVID, so yes, there would be a correlation.
I'd love to see any kind of data on that. I mean, I really would. I hear what you're saying. I'd like to see support for that theory.
If that's a research study you want to do, Mr. Irvin, that you and I want to get
No,
together, I'd be happy to.
This is the assertion you're making, and so
Yeah.
I'm trying to test it in the sense of seeing if it's reasonable or not. And I'm just, it's a head scratcher, a bit of a head scratcher that there'd be a correlation between, I mean, I guess, I'm not sure how that would work. You reduce the amount of school lunch program amounts, and suddenly you're going to, have more bad meal debt?
When lunch was free during COVID, our cost, immediately after coming off free lunch, our bad meal debt increased.
Interesting. I'd love to see that data.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions from our committee, from the Budget Committee? If you notice, I'm going to stand up so I can see. Since we've asked several questions about the cafeteria fund, I'm going to ask again, I want a show of hands of who wants to vote on this tonight. Raise your hand if you want to vote on this tonight. If you don't, raise your hand if you want to defer. Okay, we're going to continue to defer.
Chairman Dodd,
Yes, ma'am.
I do have a follow-up question. Director, when you say you attacked your bad meal debt, what does that mean? Explain that, please.
We put a $60 limit on students to be able to charge in a la carte sales. So we were having bad meal debt accumulated through a la carte sales. So instead of taking and using school lunch, students have the option to buy chips, cookies, those different types of things. So if students have charges, they're no longer able to buy those a la carte things. They have to do a school lunch first. And that greatly reduced students' ability to charge without their parents knowing what types of things they were charging.
Thank you, guys. That concludes Fund 143, the easy budget for tonight. From this point forward, it gets more difficult. I do think that this next item is 177. That 177, we'll test it as we go, but I'm asking you to hold questions until the end because to me, it disrupts the flow of information and we start losing track of where we are and where we're going. So 177 will be presented entirely, and then we will let Michael engage on behalf of the county's finances, and then we will open the floor for questions. So at this point, if everyone's ready, Brian, we can proceed with 177 capital projects.
I
Okay, so-
apologize. I certainly apologize.
If we can't go back to 143.
I don't want to go back. I want to go to the restroom. Can I get 2 minutes?
Oh. We stand adjourned for a brief break. To make, then we will proceed with Fund 177.
So now we get into 177, 141 are going to be on, you'll notice they both have property tax going into those funds. So I want to caveat something here, and this is going to be the same statement for 177 as it is for 141. We do not have a certified tax rate yet. So everything on this, especially the local portion of this funding for 177 and 141 is estimated. It could go up or it could go down. So in this fund particularly, we balance that. There's only really two main revenues in this 177. And we balance that. So I guess I'm just cautioning to say is, if this tax revenue will more than likely, the one thing I know is it will change. So it will come back up for a second vote, and that vote may not be all the way until the 22nd of the commission, depending on when we get a certified rate. But in 177 specifically, that it really just goes to their capital maintenance needs. So it would decrease their expenditure on that if that happens, or it could increase it depending on what we decide to do with movement of pennies and things like that. But I just wanted everybody to know this is a placeholder for the property tax for 177, and go ahead and make the same explanation for 141.
Thank you, Michael. Mr. Runyon.
Okay, we're going to start, as Michael said, on education capital projects. I'm going to start off with the revenue on there. As you can see, as Michael said, everything's pretty much property tax. There's also a schools facility development tax, but the majority of it is your current property tax, and we've got it set right now currently as an estimated amount at $19,354,969. Expenditures as well are set at the same amount, so that this is no spending into a deficit, no spending into anything of that extent. The revenues equal the expenditures, so everything else, the surplus or the deficit amount is zero right now. The only difference between this budget this year versus, or in 26-27 versus 25-26 is about $10,000 currently. As I said, as Michael said, that can change once the certified tax rate is established. Michael, is the sheet, the maintenance or the capital project sheet on here?
So
This one is.
I'm just wondering if I can.
it's not up there. It is on their iPads, and I printed it in a hard copy.
You want to?
I only had the ability to load that one big, long presentation, so I didn't have the ability to swap.
Oh, he's got one here, too.
I've got it right here. It's just I was wanting to put it up there if you're able to see, but you just scroll up on there.
All right, so I'm going to talk to the projects on Fund 177. So Fund 177, several years ago, moving into the TISA funding, we moved additional pennies from 141 into 177 to try to attack some of our deferred maintenance. With the increase in cost of a lot of our HVAC, roofing, all those different types of things, we have made progress, as I talked about. We've put between $70 and $80 million into this with you all's support. Unfortunately, a lot of the projects just keep increasing in price. And so you're going to see a lot of these projects continue to move year to year, but we've been very creative. Mr. Lee has been very creative in using different grants, using different projects for us to be able to attack a lot of these different projects. The main one for us, and how you can read this sheet, is you're going to see the overall requests. So it's going to be organized in a couple different ways. One, it's going to have major HVAC. That's going to be your overall number that you're going to see. That is the huge portion of this list. And then we have the dollar figure right beside it, which is how much an estimate would be to replace that entire unit today. We then have it prioritized 1 through 12. We stopped at 12 because the reality is we're not going to be able to attack very many of these, so going past 12 wouldn't be prudent at the same time. Next, you're going to see highlighted dollar figures. If something is highlighted, that means in a perfect world, we would like to use that much funding right now for that project. However, I'm going to use the very first one as an example. Let's take Blackman High School. It's highlighted $1.5 million. If you scroll over to the right, it has $1 million beside it. That means instead of the 1.5 million that we had planned to utilize, we're going to utilize 1 million instead so that we can use some other projects and try to utilize that 19 million as best as we can across all 52 campuses that we have. So you're looking at the 1.5 will show you the first one is what we would like to utilize using the funds available, and then all the way to the right is what we plan to use. All of these come back to the school board to be able to approve. They go through bids, purchasing, all those different types of things. But this is just our list of what is the priority right now. Next, you're going to see Central Magnet. You're going to see Las Casas is priority number 1, 9.5 million. That is the original HVAC from when that building was built in, I believe, 92 or 93. It is held up for, going on 30-something years, over 30 years at this point. And so it's the original HVAC that is in that building, a little bit of work that's been done to it, but it's the original HVAC system. We're going to try to attack it in 2 years, $4 million this year, utilize some additional funds, hopefully, from some other locations, and then do the rest of it the very next year. And so that's how we are trying to attack these huge projects, is a 2-year basis instead of just doing it all at one time. If we were to do the entire 9.5, that would take all of what we would need, because we try to split HVAC covering half, and then an additional, all the rest of the projects using the other half of the funds available. And so that allows us to utilize multiple facilities instead of just one. So that's how you can read kind of the HVAC. The rest of the numbers, unfortunately, just keep moving to the right. Our school board's going to get a presentation, I believe, June 4th on how we're going to try to attack some more of these on June 2nd at our work session, and then look at it again on June 4th on how to try to get additional funding using some CMTA analysis and trying to, again, provide funding to be able to get more. You'll see then the next kind of area that we look at outside of HVAC, we move down to bleachers and seats. You would not believe how much bleachers and seats are. They're unbelievable to replace, and so we have rotations for all of these things. Gym floors, we have a rotation for screening and recoding various floors, whether they're a middle, a high school, or elementary school. You then move into scrolling down through that. Various just replacements, so you have like plaster wall repair, courtyard drainage, digital copy of school plans that we're trying to digitize all of our school plans, site lighting for outside with Central Magnet. Then you move into paving, seal, coating, and striping. And so those are different facilities that we are looking. So you can see Blackman Elementary, Middle, David Urey, Red Hawk Parkway, Kittrell, Stewartsboro, the Seagulls. And then you move into major roofing. So you've got flashing at multiple schools, $125,000. And then Laverne High School at $3 million. It's a $6 million job, but covering half of that in this coming year, and then hopefully the next for the next year. Then we look at Roy Waldron being the priority number 1. And so you'll see that we try to allocate, we need 2.1, but we're only going to do 1 million this year and try to allocate that over multiple years, just so that you get an idea of what we are looking at to how we allocate those funds. The next big hitter, if you scroll down to the bottom, to where it says LED lighting. So we have replaced all the LED lighting in our athletic fields. We have started at our elementary schools. We're going to finish, hopefully, get at least 2/3 of the way done. Elementary is our largest number of schools. Get at least 2/3 of the way done with our elementary schools with all interior LED lighting next year, so that we can then start hitting our middle and our high schools. And so that is what our plan is long term. For those of you, we've all been on this portion together. We looked at different ways, whether going to the bond market to do LED lighting, doing CMTA loan options, and instead we just used the last couple years. Our board looked at it, and we have been very successful in just doing LED lighting out of 177 to bring additional savings. And so that is our Fund 177 in our project list. And again, these all go to the school board for consideration before any funding is actually generated. So they can choose to move these around. And also, if we have an emergency, a chiller goes out somewhere, that may then require funding to be reallocated from one of these sites to go to somewhere else. And so that unfortunately does happen at times.
Thank you. So we've seen the anticipated revenue and expenditures on your SharePoint and up here. as a courtesy, we have received the overall project list. We're not voting on the project list. It's a working document that the school board maintains to see what's out in front of them. It's a capital improvement plan that Mayor Carr is working on for the full county. It's a capital improvement plan. What's in front of them, what's coming, what's reality, it's a reality check. They anticipate getting $18 million. By the grace of God, we created a maintenance fund for the schools some years back. We put pennies into it, and with envy of the state that we have a program to maintain schools. So we're voting tonight. We will have discussion after Michael speaks. We've had 177 presented. We're only looking at the expenditures, anticipated revenue expenditures for next year, and have this as for your information. You can talk to your school board members about it. How do they pick priorities? How do they shift priorities if an emergency comes up? So I'm going to now go to Michael on, you've heard 177. Michael, any comments before we go to the committee?
I kind of gave my spiel to start, but I just want to reiterate, this will definitely have a second vote for at least the commission, and then I'll go back to the school board after that. Highly likely it's going to be, it could change on the 22nd, the morning of the 22nd, but it's going to be because of the certified rate. And as you'll notice, they have two expense lines. One's the trustees commission, and one is for their projects. So it's directly going to be related to the tax rate and that revenue that we move around. And so I'll take any questions on that, but it will change for sure. Hopefully it doesn't change much, but it definitely will change.
If the revenue changes, the expenditure will change, correct? And that will be the vote that will come back to the full commission at a later date when the revenues are solidified. So we've seen, are you finished, Michael? So
Just to
Chairman
follow
Phillips,
what Michael said.
and you are a member of this committee as far as I'm concerned as chairman, so we are now going to move to anybody has questions. We'll begin with Chairman Phillips is recognized, and next I'm going to go to Mayor Carr.
Thank you. Michael, it might seem like a silly question, but you've mentioned certified rate a number of times, and I just got a question that folks out there don't know what you're talking about. So could you explain certified rate?
Yes, so this is a reappraisal year, and I have seen emails as of today on an update on that. So, I mean, we're making headway towards that. So what that means is, this is our 4-year reappraisal year cycle. So as an example, I believe I gave this maybe last week at budget. This past year, we had about $16 billion of assessed value in the county. I anticipate that the numbers I've seen would go somewhere between 20 and 22 billion. So quite a bit of jump on a reappraisal year, which in turn for us is going to lower our tax rate. So right now our tax rate is $1.8762. I would really anticipate our tax rate going down to $1.50, $1.40, somewhere in that range. With what that, then to get to that, you have to back out. You cannot be taxed on the change in value. You can only be taxed, or should only be taxed, on home improvements, new construction, the actual growth. But I will caution, every year we get calls, that is on a county-wide basis, not on an individual taxpayer basis. So it could be that, and it will be, not it could be, it will be that some areas, some people's taxes will go up based on their reappraisal. But that is because it's revenue neutral to the county, county-wide, spread out across the entire county, all the way from Laverne all the way down to Kittrell to the county line on each end. So with that said is the process, and I'll go ahead and give an update because I think I said I would give one at every meeting. There's been emails today between the state and our property assessor. They're working through that. They have made progress even since last week to agree on certain things. One of the things, or a couple of the things they look at, are if a new home sells on a certain street, how does that relate to a homeowner that's lived there 30 years? And they actually take all those sales files and look at everything from actuarial analysis to market analysis. And so right now, our property assessor's office is working with the State Division of Property Assessments to agree on the final values on what will be on our tax roll. Once that happens, there's a calculation that backs into our certified rate based on the new additions, whether that's a new addition to your house or new construction or a whole number of things like that. Once that happens, that tax rate, the proposed certified rate is submitted to the State Board of Equalization. They'll certify it and it'll come back to us. All that happens really quick, and it's happening right now. My hope is, obviously, I hope we have one by the 22nd. I mean, the state has agreed to put additional resources to this. And I know there's been progress since last Thursday. There was progress even today. There was an in-person meeting last Thursday between the State Division of Property Assessments and our property assessor's office. So they are making progress. They are keeping me abreast. Both sides are keeping me and the county attorney, in the loop. But that's where we stand. I hope that answers and that's an update for the committee here on where we stand right now.
And this committee will entertain a motion and we'll vote we're voting on the concept of anticipated revenue, anticipated expenditure, you will readdress it when the numbers come in. I shall make that clear to us and to the community. We'll vote on the concept. The actual dollars will be addressed by the budget committee in the near future. Is that a safe?
What was it, Jeff? Yeah, I don't know when we'll get this certified rate. Obviously, if I get it tomorrow, then we've got time for more committees to look at it. But the way this will typically work, if we get it late, let's say I finally have it by the 22nd, the commission will vote, and then I believe the school board has something scheduled that week of the 22nd to kind of certify that. I will go ahead and say this on both of these next two funds. On this one, the expenditures would change because we want this fund to balance. They can come back with amendments if there's no maintenance of effort on this fund. So if revenues come in better, as they often do, they come back and we amend 177 if there's a need. We've done that the last couple of years, and we'll continue to do so as needed, right? On 141, we tried to be conservative, and we'll talk about that here in a minute, on the revenues there. So I think the hope is that unless there's a change on the expenditure side, only the revenue side would change on 141. Now, if the certified tax rate is way out of what we estimated, then I think we would have a different conversation. But as of everything I'm seeing right now, I would anticipate the revenue side changing and potentially not the expenditure side is kind of what we're seeing, unless this committee changes it for other reasons outside of the certified rate. But I don't anticipate the certified rate changing the expenditures of 141.
Mayor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Sullivan, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On your capital plan, as an example, major roofing, Roy Waldron.
Yes, sir.
You have determined that it's going to cost approximately $2.1 million to replace the roof at Roy Waldron. Am I reading that right?
Correct.
And so I have two questions here. And you want to allocate in the 26-27 budget year $1 million to replace that roof, with the rest of the balance of 1.1 in 27-28. Is that correct?
Hopefully, yes.
So with two questions. Number one, how do you replace half a roof on a building? It seems to me, I get HVAC package units. If you have 20 package units, you can replace 10 package units now and 10 next year. I get that. But how do you replace half a roof without it not affecting the other half of the roof that you didn't replace? And number two, if you are able to do that, which I'm sure you are, you're going to explain that to us, but if you are, does that then necessarily obligate, because of the expenditure in 26-27, for an expenditure in 27-28, does it obligate the county commission for that second half?
Great question. No, sir. We have multiple piecemealed sections all over the county of different roofing projects from multiple years. Just thinking about that building and the different additions that it's had it had an addition within the last 10 years. It's going to have a different portion of the roof and I'm looking at Trey, are we going to look to replace that portion of the roof, Trey, for the new addition? So we are not going to be replacing that part of the roof, for example, on the new addition we just added. It had an additional annex in between that time from when it was K-8 to when it moved into being a K-5 school. And so this is going to be a portion of that building. And then the second question is it doesn't allocate it because, again, we're only going to be, this is a huge portion of the school, but it is not the entire portion of the school. Mr. Lee has keeps up with by each building, and our board's going to see it on June 2nd with HVAC as the example of how our HVAC units by age work together and where we need to replace each unit to be able to try to keep certain units and chillers working online. Roofing's going to be similar for us and only addressing the parts that need to be replaced, Roy Waldron being that example, but you could have examples, Blackman High School is going to be an example to where they've had an addition since that school originally opened and then another addition after that. Your major one that you're looking at, your highest cost, Mr. Lee, you may want to come up here to address your higher cost one if you want to.
If I could.
Yeah.
So what you're saying essentially, if for whatever reason the economy in 27, 28 goes in the toilet and the next commissioner and the next mayor do not have the funding available for the second half of that, or that
Yes.
second tranche, okay, it's not going to obsolete the initial investment of $1 million.
Correct.
And I've just used Roy Waldron example. You could have picked any one of these,
Correct.
as a matter of fact. I purposely didn't pick HVAC because you can divide up this package units much more easily than I thought you could a roof. But you're saying it will not obsolete that initial investment, correct?
No, sir, and we may have a chiller going that is a bigger priority than that roof is at that time. Let's just say Roy Waldron has a HVAC go out and we have to replace it instead of the roof.
Okay.
Our board would have to decide what's the bigger priority based on our recommendation.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from the Health and Ed Committee?
I do have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
And this might just be a typo, but under paving, seal, coating, striping, LHS, the 70,000 is not highlighted in the 26, 27 column. Should it be out here for the plan?
Give me a second, I'm getting to it. Yes, it should be highlighted.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm noticing on 177, it's all 100% local funding. So just to clarify, there's no, any kind of grants, federal, state, no. Stop shaking your head and give me time to finish my question. I'm just playing with you. So no state, nothing out there to.
Again, we're on Fund 177, the expenditures and anticipated revenue for the next year. Any other questions on that? Ms. Oliver?
So we've been told we do not have a certified tax rate. And please state again, what do you want us to do with this? What is what motion are you looking for, since we don't
Yes,
actual?
I would be looking for a motion to approve or deny with the, and you could state it as such, I suppose, with the, to forward it on to budget.
Just forward it to budget?
Yes. And if budget has new numbers on any given night, they will entertain the new number.
Okay, I will make that motion to forward the 177 budget to budget.
Budget. So we have a motion and a second. Any other conversation on 177? Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Chairman. Just for the public watching, I don't know if they're able to see how small the print is on their SharePoint, if they actually saw this. Before we vote, I just want to point out two numbers that they're staggering, and quite frankly, I don't know how some of you guys sleep at night. I really don't, because I feel like you're flipping a coin and praying that we are able to have things fail after that we've planned for their failure. If I'm reading this right, this 5-year capital request list, this says $492,906,000. $500 million in, the correct word is deferred maintenance.
Correct.
When I started on this committee 4 years ago, that number was $250 million, and I found it astonishing that we were looking to put just shy of $20 million a year into something that's already $250 million behind. This number's doubled in 4 years that I've been working with you. It's doubled. We're not paying any more into it, but the requests have doubled. Just before we vote on this and move on, I just wanted to have this conversation. My concern is, and I think Commissioner Gooch is making a good point, we're going to have to figure out, we need some help. We're going to have to ask for it however we have to. I don't know if Commissioner Gooch and I need to go picket down in Nashville, but we're going to have to do something because you have doubled your requests. We're not able at this point to increase this with a balanced budget. And Mayor Carr is bringing up a point of the uncertain future of how long we can continue to do that. So I just wanted the public to know this is a dire situation, in my opinion. We're staring down failure on the HVAC where, what do you do when the HVAC system fails? Do you have to cancel school? I mean, I'm just curious what happens, because you got $325 million simply in HVAC work here that's deferred. So just for the public to understand the full conversation, we're discussing wanting to put just shy of $20 million into a $500 million problem. So I just want it to be discussed fairly with all the facts on the table. Is this correct? Is it this bad?
Yes. And I think if you look at public government in general, we're not going to be outside the lines with any government entity, especially with the number of campuses that we have. I think it goes kudos to our team as well for being able to maintain the facilities that we do have that are operating on 30 and 35-year-old HVAC units that should have made it 20 or 25 and they're still operating. Is it somewhat piecemealed together and still operating? Yes, it is. But we problem solve on a daily basis with our staff on making sure that we prioritize who to keep running, how to keep running, and use the funds that are available to the best of our ability. And we have made progress from the dollar figure doesn't look like you've made progress, but as far as from the funding the county commission has allocated to us, we have knocked out quite a few projects. Unfortunately, as we continue to move down the years, our buildings are getting older. And so those projects just keep moving and adding and adding. People talk to us about, Siegel High School is a new building. Siegel High School is almost 25 years old. It's in need of major replacement of everything at this point because it's almost a 25-year-old building. It's not a new building.
And Chairman, I just want to point out for future commissioners, for people to understand what we're facing. When we're talking about how to allocate money, we're staring at just a deferred maintenance of just keeping the buildings operational for children to be able to learn at a $500 million deficit. So when we're discussing future needs, things that we're not currently funding, I'm going to remind everybody from this point forward, we're putting less than $20 million a year, what we can, but that's how small it is, into a huge problem. So we have a long way to go, and at the end of the day, the school board votes on their budget request, but this county commission is responsible for funding this school system. It will fall on the county commission. It does stop here.
We have a recognized motion and a second. Any further discussion? Justin, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Chairman Dodd?
Yes. Thank you, committee. Thanks for that motion and second.
At this time,
Commissioner P.
I'd like to ask the Budget Committee, again, for a show of hands, if you do not want to address this tonight, please raise your hand if you do not want to address it tonight. Okay, we will not address it tonight. We will be seeing this tomorrow night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chairman P. Next on our agenda is Fund 141, General School Fund. Any preamble to this? Anyone from the administration. Mr. Runyon, proceed.
Okay, so we're going with the largest fund we have, which is our general purpose school fund, Fund 141. And I'm gonna,
Going back over, I do want to start with a caveat, and then I'll sit down and wait. We talked about the very beginning of what we were proud of. In order to, because we did shrink an enrollment like we talked about by, right now it's at about 300, about just less than 300 kids. Again, I expect that to be closer to 100 once our TISA allocations are updated with some coding changes. However, when we are looking to, at our enrollment, something we always want to do is be good stewards of money. And so with our chief academic officer, again, we talked about opening Poplar Hill. We also transferred probably close and upwards of 100 positions. I talked about 40 a little while ago for Poplar Hill Middle. We have rezoned all 3 of our grade bands at this point to fill open seats. And with that, that required, instead of asking for new positions, we transferred positions. When you're transferring over 100 positions, you are looking well into that $8 to $10 million range instead of that 6 to 7 that I discussed. So instead of asking for positions, we did transfer positions. We do have still a little bit of duplicative cost in a couple places to where we have some grandfathering, which was what's best for our students, to where if they provide transportation, then they can stay like 8th graders, for example, at Poplar Hill Middle School. And those kids, if they were zoned for that school, then they can stay at one of the 2 areas. But as time goes on, we will adjust those positions just like we have at the elementary and the high school this year. So we have done a really nice job of, we did not grow in enrollment. And so you will see one of our largest line items doesn't grow very much despite us having a 2% COLA increase to the table and a big increase to medical insurance. And that huge line does not increase very much, especially when you consider how big of a number it is.
hey, you hit on all my highlights, so I'll move to the next one. Okay, well, all right, so the first highlight we got is a 2% COLA increase for all employees. Today I just looked online just to see what the 2026 COLA increase was for Social Security for 2026, and it's 2.8. So we're still below that at least. You know, it's one of those things that we talked about for a minute, where we were going to be at. Previous years we got 2.5. And one year we actually got, whenever we redid the salary schedule, above 2.5%. So we figured 2.5% would get us to that point where we meet the state mandated $50,000 per year for new teachers starting out. So we're there. We will be there with that 2% COLA. We also have put in a degree stipend for classified staff. We talked about it, and we pay our teachers on degree, but we do not pay any of our staff on degrees. So we are looking to do a degree stipend for them, for anybody with a bachelor's or above. We also, as Dr. Sullivan said earlier, we had 60-plus positions transferred across the district to cover the new Poplar Hill Middle School. And then we are also, to speak back to Commissioner Harris's question, we are covering half the medical insurance increase, which with the new rate that we got was 8.7%, but as I said earlier, we budgeted at 10% aggregate. So we're covering half of that. So let's jump into the revenue side of the 141 budget. This is just a comparison, a chart from FY26 and FY27. Everything you see in yellow on here is our current maintenance effort. As you can see, there is a little bit of a difference in there. Currently, again, we're working off of a potential certified tax rate or an estimated potential certified tax rate. So with that said, those numbers could change, but this is what we're looking at currently. There is not a large, huge increase in anything as far as that goes. If there is any specific questions on that, I can address it when we get to those. But the total amount that we are budgeting in revenue for this current 26-27 year is $5,591,000. $587,876,547. That is an increase of $14,490,722 from FY 25-26, or the current year we're in right now. Okay. So if you look on this as well, you will see in the revenue code 49,800 transfers in, it has a 125% increase. So in FY 26-27, we went ahead and budgeted $2 million into that for indirect costs out of Fund 143. So we went ahead and included it in this budget, whereas what we just brought to you as an amendment was not in the current FY 25-26 budget. So we will be, that $2 million is included in the 49,800 revenue code. All right, so what you've got here is about 5 pages of revenues, and I'll show you the breakdown of those on one of these charts here in just a second. But like I said, the maintenance of effort will change a little bit depending on what the certified tax rate is. As you can see, all these line items, we're still looking at the mayor/board recommendation line. In that amount, like I said, it comes to the $584. $587,876,547. Moving on to the graphs that I was speaking of. This is a 5-year general purpose fund balance analysis, and just to briefly hit on it, it's the same as the one I explained for 143. You have your 5 years that are in the orange bars. As you can see, FY 22-23, the fund balance was greater there. Then in FY 23-24, it's when we came and decided to fund half of a middle school, and we pulled $30 million out of it. So that's the reason why you see such a drastic decrease in that green line that's coming down through there. And then as you can see, the fund balance has steadily decreased, or it's remained pretty steady over the last 3 years. And again, this goes into FY 25-26. These were the numbers I had about a month ago. So again, we're hoping and we're looking to add to fund balance and not spend into the deficit. I don't believe we will, but again, we're not at the end of the fiscal year yet. As you can see on the chart below, the way our general purpose school funds is funded, we have 66% state funding, which the majority of that is TISA. 33% is local, which comes through our maintenance of effort. And then 1% is other, which includes a tiny bit of federal, and then also transfers that you saw in those transfers in the account number 49,800. Sure.
So something on that chart I do want to bring up is when you can see the funding to the elementary school. So if you see fiscal year 22-23 is when TISA comes along, then fiscal year 23-24, and again, this is your percentage increase or decrease. So your actual funding or your orange bars, I wouldn't have used orange, but that's all right, Mr. Runyon.
Black and gold, come on.
Yeah, I would have used a different board, but that is a different color. But you'll see your blue or purple bar is what's actually your fund balance number, and then the green, so we went up with TISA, working with our school board and the county commission, decided to fund $30 million for the elementary, and then some additional design fees for the middle school and Laverne High School. So well, I think into the mid $30 million, and that did have a decrease of 10%, but that's $30 million, and we only decreased it $20 million. So we still ended up with an additional plus $10 million that we put back into fund balance from that amount that we were anticipating. Last year, we budgeted into the deficit again, or 2 years ago. You'll see we still ended up just barely in the positive, and so that's usually a trend for us. I expect the same thing. We budgeted into the deficit this year, I don't anticipate us being back into the deficit depending on how, again, the year ends up, based on what expenditures we look at to go ahead and take care of the revenue that's coming in right now. So even if we budget into the deficit, a lot of our actuals don't actually come into the deficit. But I did want to explain that huge drop of why it looks like the 10% again.
The orange bars are part of our branding colors, so that's the reason why. That's the reason why they're orange. We'll just say they're a gold. Okay, so I'm going to change to the next slide that shows what our variances are in our expenditures. Trying to pull this up. As you can see on this slide, there is a huge variance difference in two line items, and I'm going to explain that because this is me, not anybody at the district. It's me. In the account number of maintenance of plant, which is 72,620 and 72,610, I wanted to be able to pull out. I feel that our custodial staff, our custodial supplies, everything needs to run through maintenance of plant. It had been also budgeted in 72,610 in operation of plant. So I wanted more of our engineering aspect to go in operation of plant, and then the custodian and the maintenance go in the maintenance of plant. That's the reason why you see such a huge jump. One side says 190% increase, and then one says a negative 47.7% increase. That's just me because it helps me track those expenditures better by putting those personnel and staff in those lines. Let's see if there's anything else. As you can see, I put the explanations on here. One of our largest expenditure lines is 71,100, which is where all of our teachers are, their salaries and benefits. And as you can see, it's had a difference of 1.3 million. What that difference is, now if you look at FY26 amount, you'll see $297 million that we budgeted in this current year. 9.8 million of that, though, was the one-time funding that we got from the education savings account. So because of that, it only jumped us up 1.3 when we actually budgeted. So you're not going to see $9.8 million in those expenditures because that was a one-time funding that we had to budget for last year, or this current year, that we paid at the beginning of the year. So we obviously, as you can see, did not budget $9 million in there, so that's the reason why there's only a jump of 1.3%. That includes the COLA increase, and then we're also putting an additional $300,000 in the weapons detection system stipends that we give to our current staff for manning those weapon detection systems in the mornings. The other one that you see that has a little bit of a spike to it is 23.7. That's the next account number, 71,150, alternative instruction. What that is we have movement of SPED EAs that come from the traditional schools going to Simon Springs, which is now an alternative school. So it moves them out of the 71,200 account into the 71,150. So because of that jump, that's the reason for that jump, is those salaries and benefits, moving them from one account number to another. With that said, the total amount that we budgeted for the FY 26-27 year is $597 million. I'll get this right in a second. $597,757,055, which is an increase of $16,414,009.39. What that is, if you look at what our revenue was, it was 14 million, 14.4, 14.5 million increase. This is 16.4 million. That's the difference between what if we had stayed the same deficit as we were last year versus what the deficit is this year. So the deficit, as you can see, this current year, between revenues and expenditures, is 9.8 million, $9,880,508. So last year we budgeted right around 7.7 million in the deficit. and then this year we're $2 million more. And a lot of that is to cover the medical insurance cost, our 2% COLA, and then some other expenditures. But again, like I said, those, as Michael said earlier, those expenditure amounts aren't expected to change. It's more on the revenue side, that is, once we have that certified tax rate. I also want to point out, this again is the same sheet that y'all saw on all the other two funds. This is your expenditure amount broken down by line item. Is there anything, Dr. Sullivan, you want me to point out in there? Okay, just want to make sure. I'll go to the graph on this one. And as you can see, the 5-year fund balance, I got to get to the next graph. The fund balance analysis was underneath the revenues. This is the revenue and expenditure analysis. As you can see in the green and the blue bars, every year, obviously, our revenue and our expenditures have increased. We had that spike in 22-23, which is in revenue. Our expenditure spike in 22-23. That is when we received we transitioned from BEP to TISA, and we received the extra amount of money, and we also right-sided our salary scale for classified staff and certified staff. So that's when we did the salary study and came in and revamped the salary scale for classified and certified. You see the revenue spike also in 23-24. That was also in that transition year. And then we decreased revenue percent increase in 24-25, and then 25-26 we increased it again. So what this is basically just showing that at the end of the fiscal year what revenue was and how it did year over year. Then the next shows our 6-year surplus deficit, which if you look in 23-24, that's when we actually balanced the budget without having any surplus or any deficit at all. And then if you look at 24-25, 25-26, and 26-27, we're looking to be right around the same amount right there and under that $10 million mark. Anything else? And then my next slide that I'm going to show you is just our vacant and growth positions. Mainly we'll focus on the growth side. As you can see, there are 29 growth positions. 21 of those 29 growth positions are for Poplar Hill Middle. Those are the positions that we could not transfer. We actually have to hire for those. The other 8 that are in there are basically just central office staff for those areas that, we have growth in that we need additional assistance on. So we are only adding 29 positions to the 141 budget, with 21 of those being for the Poplar Hill Middle staff. And with that, that's pretty much what I've got to present.
I'd say one of the things that we tried to do this year was a good marker for us is always the CPI index. And so CPI index, I think this year for inflation was, if you take out the energy, was around 2.8. We, of course, do have some energy costs. And if you look at our increase in expenditures this year is a little bit over 16 million. If you look at our expenditures from last year, our revenue from last year of 573 million, you add 16 million to it, you're at 589 million, which is right at where we are for this year. And so a 2.8% CPI index from last year to this year applied to exactly where we are right now. We're within a couple $100,000, which is pretty darn good of where we are for a school system that is continuing to have increased costs along with everyone else. But that's kind of just a guiding principle that we try to do, is keep within that CPI index.
committee. We will now move to Michael Smith with his take on Fund 141. Then we will open up for questions.
I kind of mentioned my spiel at the kind of on 177. Mine's kind of more on the local revenue side for this than the actual expenditure side. I don't really have anything other than to add on what I've said. Did y'all touch on the weighted average rate change? So I'll touch on that briefly, and Dr. Sullivan and Brian may have something to add. One of the things that changed this year that kind of affected the preliminarily right now the MOE and will affect the tax rate and the movement of pennies and things like that would be the weighted average daily attendance rate did shift significantly right now preliminarily in our favor. We don't set that rate, the state TDOE does. And so that's reflected in the increase in MOE that you see in front of you.
Michael, any comment on the revenue anticipated appears to be a budget deficit under $10 million. Where's your thoughts, your general accounting practices, your comfort level with that deficit conversation?
I mean, I would like to, which it is right now, I'd like to definitely keep it under 10 million, which it is. I think they'll end better this year than when they planned. I would not like to go much more above 10 from my level, but they're under that right now from what I can see. I think my only concern that I would see anywhere in here would be, the plan, we've talked about it, would be the plan for textbooks. Yep, I don't know if you touched on that, but I think that would be the only thing that, I'm not saying it gives me concern, but there's a challenge that we're going to have to tackle would be the curriculum and textbooks.
We tend to run, we've had budgeted deficits in previous years. Those deficits have been overcome by conservative revenues and conservative expenses, and those deficits it never came to fruition, correct? So is that a normal process?
They've come is when we've had a plan spin down. I mean, we've spent down several things over the last several years because of that conservative budgeting. I think you may have mentioned some of those to start. Right, the biggest one's the elementary school that we used about 30 million or so of fund balance off the top of my head. We also moved 9 million or so, 9 million and some change for Lee Road, that property that we just closed on I believe last week. So those are the two biggest things that stand out. That's about $40 million. So technically on paper we ended bad, but that was because we moved the 40 million out over the last couple years.
A comment about textbooks. Michael mentioned that.
So textbooks are an increasing expenditure for us. 5-6 years ago, it was a 5-year adoption cycle. Then it moved to a 6-year adoption cycle. And now the state is moving to an 8-year textbook adoption cycle. At a district our size of 52,000 kids, every student is supposed to have a textbook. Every textbook runs between $180 and $200 a piece. You're looking at a $10 to $12 million textbook price anytime you adopt textbooks. And so we have a couple different options. One, we could put $10 to $12 million into our budget every other year when there's a textbook adoption, which just kills your budget. The other option, and what we did with science, if this committee will remember, is that we put $1 million in or a couple $1 million into our operating budget. We then used additional revenue that was coming in that we didn't have spent, and that's probably what you'll see with a cleanup budget amendment here in a couple weeks. I was going to say months, but a couple weeks to address some of it. And then we used additional revenue that we haven't had come in yet that goes into fund balance. We used that for science 2 years ago. Let's just play worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, we don't have a ton of, because I think that's always the best way to play it. If we don't have a ton of revenue that comes in into fund balance. I don't think that's the reality, but let's just say we don't have a lot of money that comes into fund balance. We can budget on a year-by-year basis for a science textbook adoption. We get about a 10% discount by purchasing them for an 8-year cycle. A 10-year discount or a 10% discount on $10 to $12 million is $1 million of taxpayer money. That's why we like to do it with science when we can. But if we need to do it at a budgetary and we just add science this year when we get to adopt
think it's English Language Arts in 2 years, we can add an additional $1 million to do at that point, and that just becomes part of our operating budget every year. Last time we were able to do it with science by going to fund balance. That's kind of what our plan has been. We talked about health and ed because we feel pretty confident we're going to put more money into fund balance again this year. But until that comes to fruition, we like to have both options on the table to be able to.
We will now open for questions. Commissioner Wilson.
Well, I think just to kind of add a timeline, since you've got the Budget Committee here with Health and Ed, we were looking at maybe trying to purchase those by May of next year to have them for the, so we're talking about something that we're going to be able to look at come January, see how revenue and things are going. He wanted to purchase those in May. We have time to figure out what to do with that decision, so just want everybody to know the timeline is about a year from now.
Yep. Yeah, because I would love to give you an exact number. The adoption doesn't even start until September for vendors to even choose who's going to apply, who's not. Then the local Board of Education has to set a committee and choose which textbooks they're going to have. Then we have to adopt it. So it's multiple months, almost a year away. But in order to do it and get them in time for the next school year, we usually have to purchase before June 30th. So just one that's on our radar.
And Commissioner Gooch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have just two things. So on the vacancy page, I noticed that special education teachers, looks like we're fully staffed. Special education assistants, we got 31 vacancies. And I suppose out of 50-so schools, that's not really a large number. But we pay our special education assistants the same as regular educational assistants.
They're one step above. But it's still not enough for the number of openings that we're having, so that's something our school board may have to address.
Okay.
Same with special education bus aides.
Right.
And we have special education teachers fully staffed because we've done some shifting around, but we've probably got some openings there that we are going to have to fill since this is pulled at one spot in time, and we are in the middle of transferring positions around. So I'm sure we have openings from the last time this was pulled.
Okay. I'm glad the school board is looking at that.
Yeah.
So on our ending fund balance from a accounting purpose, I'm projecting that at the end of the year, we're looking at 13.8%. Close. Okay, and then that's a healthy fund, Michael? Healthy ending? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gooch. And again, we're contemplating 141 to push on the budget. If there's any scrutiny on line items or if any scrutiny beyond what we've discussed, it can be an item that will be looked at again over the course of the next, will be perhaps tomorrow night.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you speak to where we are relative to transportation?
Yes, there are no changes to transportation, so the district does not have any plans to purchase any new buses. The only drivers, if they're on here, are the drivers that we have for the buses that we currently purchased. By the time that we got the purchase of buses and then we posted our positions, we had a couple applicants. We realized that we have a job description that's going to go to our board next, I think our next meeting on June 4th, that is a special education EA/bus driver, and we're going to use them all day long instead of being part-time, so it'll be more of a special education position with a CDL. And so that is a better route for us instead of disrupting kids and all that type of thing with 2 weeks left before school year. But this budget does not include any purchase of buses, any new drivers, keeping as is with the 2.5% raise, the $4,000 stipend they have, and then we will go back and we have a $500 additional stipend that we're going to go back to try to cover some of the insurance as well added to that. So it's $4,500.
Health and Ed Committee, any other questions, or I will entertain a motion.
Chairman, I move that we will move the Fund 141 revenue and expenditures for consideration to the Budget Committee.
Second.
We have a motion in a couple of seconds. Mr. McMurray made the second. Any further discussion? Justin, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Chairman Dodd.
Yes. Chairman P., do you want to be up here this time?
No, you're fine. Again, I'm going to ask our committee, show of hands, if you'd like to move this 141 fund to tomorrow night. Show me your hand.
Yes or no? Are we doing yes or no?
Yeah, to move it. Okay, so we will be looking at 141 tomorrow night. However, since we've got these guys here kind of fresh on our mind, anybody on the budget committee have a question on the 141 budget you'd like to? Commissioner Piercy, you're recognized.
Going back to the transfer of the 81 positions, did all those come from one school?
No, sir. They were from open positions, from resignations, retirements, all those different types of things. And so we work to be able to find, we have about 200 to 300 positions, actually probably more than 300 positions through resignations and retirements every year. And so we just held those positions as student enrollment shifted. Our biggest ones were going to be from Stewart's Creek and Blackman Middle School, because that's where we're open Poplar Hill Middle School shifting from. And so that's where most of your transferred positions came from. But we also then were able to fill from other places as resignations and retirements, because we did a complete district-wide rezone for middle school.
So referring to the transfers, you're only moving the position, not the person, is that correct?
Great question. It depends on the school. So if, let's just say Stewart's Creek Middle, and I'm going to say they had to move 16 positions. The way that, and that may not be the correct number, I'm just saying 16. The way that we do that, we tell the school you have to have 16 positions leave. We ask for all retirements and resignations come out of that number first. And then our procedure is then we ask for volunteers. If you still have, let's say, 3 left, then it comes to the last hired in the district have to go as involuntary transfers.
My second question, on the stifling check for the bus driver's insurance, are all the checks the same? They're all $4,000?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that the insurance for a bus goes up as the bus is newer?
Yes, sir. And our boards talked about different parts of this and how much to address in different items. Yes, sir.
Last question. Where in any of your 3 budgets do you allocate money for elementary school classroom supplies?
They are in the large one. They are in the 71,100, 429 instructional supplies and materials.
You have a number off the top of your head?
Unfortunately,
what one
I
might
do.
be?
Yes. Unfortunately, I look at this enough that I do. Yes, sir. That 71,100 is the huge $300 million budget. So, and then 429 is instructional supplies and materials in every account.
So per classroom, you have any idea what that amount would be? That's where I'm trying to get to.
It's by kid that we send down, and it's dipped. So for elementary school, we can pull it for you by tomorrow to tell you how much, because it depends per kid. We send a certain amount for classroom and for technology. We break it down per kid.
Do you ever check and make sure it's spent on that?
It goes down to the schools, and then the schools have to allocate it based on what their leadership team decides.
Have you ever thought about checking to see how much the parents, the money that they have to send to school for everything their teachers ask their children to bring saves your budget?
It's a great question to ask. I'm sure it's a ton.
Thank you.
Any other questions from our committee members? If you can't see me, I can't see you, so speak up.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question? It's
You're recognized.
off the district director, so
Yes, sir.
this is not on the budget, so I apologize. How many teachers do we get from MTSU?
Dr. Anthony, I'll have to pull our number. It's less than it used to be.
And how many teachers that work for us live in Rutherford County?
We'd have to pull that, the majority. But it's getting less every year because of affordable housing. Our biggest teacher pool at this point is our own teacher certification program, which is Rutherford Teach Now. That is our biggest licensing program.
Any other questions from the Budget Committee? Hearing none, I want to make a quick announcement. We will be meeting tomorrow night at 5:30, and at that time, we will be voting on the proposals that have been sent to us from Health and Ed. But we're also doing a review of all the budget up to this point. We have, and the purpose for that is for our annual budget for publication. And let's see, what's our due date or drop dead date on that, Michael? Tomorrow night. Okay, so that's, you kind of got the idea that I was pushing us to vote on some of these more because we have got several things on our agenda outside of the school's budget that we're going to be looking at. So you might want to pack a lunch for tomorrow night. Commissioner?
Speaking of packing a lunch, I think that since this could be a very long meeting tomorrow night with a deadline, the Finance Department should provide dinner.
Maybe that could come out of Michael's pocket. I don't know
Well,
about the
Commissioner
department.
McMurray is here tonight, and I believe that is, I would not want to take away his job that he's done at commission every month,
But he's not on budget.
but he was going to volunteer to come tomorrow night.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, it's going to be a long night. I know I'm going to be hungry, so,
Yeah.
Michael, thank you.
I'm going to turn this back over to
Yeah,
Chairman Dodd.
With that outburst, I'll better be careful here. That concludes the business of tonight's meeting. If there's no other business, I will defer to Michael Smith for another comment.
I want to reiterate something Chairman P said, and I just want to remind, we had 2 years ago, we kind of ran out of count sheets, but I want to remind, we have to leave tomorrow night with something for me to put in publication. So if there's any questions, if there's something you need, please, we'll do the best we can to get it to you. I think the schools will be back tomorrow night. But I was going to go ahead and recap a couple of things for tomorrow night's agenda that were asked in case there's anything else you would like us to add. We'll have tomorrow night for the Budget Committee, and obviously this is for any commissioner as well. We'll have the one leftover budget amendment from tonight, which is the transfer. We'll also have the school's budgets forwarded from tonight. Then we also asked the Salvation Army to come back. They did send an email to us. I forwarded that to the Budget Committee this morning once I received it. So if you haven't gotten that, please let me know. But we've asked them to come back. We were also asked to place an item on there for the Chamber of Commerce. So that is on the agenda for tomorrow night. And then we can also review any other part of the budget that the committee wishes. And then the last thing we'll do tomorrow night is propose a tax levy, but I've talked with the county attorney on that. I think we have some language there to propose a tax levy subject to getting the certified rate, so I'll have something prepared for tomorrow night for that, and then we'll have to propose the expenditure appropriations tomorrow night. Did I miss anything that the committee would like us to add for tomorrow night?
We had 4 entities on the, actually it was recreation boards for Kittrell, Las Casas, Rockvale, and Milton. And anyway, they inadvertently were left off of that. And I want to bring that up just for the committee's knowledge. They had requested $2,500 apiece, and that was the mayor's recommendation. Like I said, for some reason, we didn't get that to them, but a total of $10,000, and that also will be on the agenda for us to discuss. Mayor, was there something else? Seems like there was one other.
I'll speak to you afterwards.
Okay. That's all I have. Excuse me.
I'll entertain a motion for adjournment from Health and Ed. Health and Ed's adjourned. Budget is not adjourned.
Budget is adjourned now, so.
I don't speak for budget.